Okay, happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back to Retrial. My name is Elle, and I am the CEO and founder of the Council Collection, and I'm also an attorney, and yeah, the obviously the host of this whole thing. And I am joined today by two amazing ladies, Jasmine and London, who I'll allow to introduce themselves in a second. But yes, thank you guys so much for joining me. And which one of you wants to introduce yourselves first?
Go ahead, Jasmine.
Go
Hello, London. Hello. Thank you all for joining us today. We are really, really excited about this session of Retrial. Thank you so much, Elle, for inviting us. I know I am super excited to share my story. I'm happy for, you know, the opportunity, and I'm really excited that, those who have joined us this morning, afternoon, have joined us. We have some really amazing things to talk about. My name is Jazzmyn Bigsby, and I'm an attorney. I am licensed to practice law in DC, and I've recently passed the California bar. I actually will be admitted in a few weeks, so I'm super excited. They just need to put my name on motion to certify me before the Supreme Court, so I'm really excited about that opportunity. So I've been planning and trying to get my swearing ceremony all arranged. I am a Southern California native. I grew up right here in Southern California. I grew up sort of all around Southern California. So I have roots in the desert, which is El Centro and Blythe, which is the high desert, a very empty, very dry area, both two very small towns. But they gave me the most amazing foundation. I also spent some of my latter part of my childhood here in San Diego, California. That's where I live now. I currently work for an AM 200 law firm. I practice public records law, the Brown Act, and other areas of California transparency law as it pertains to government agencies. So all of my clients are municipalities. So they're city districts, special districts, county districts, and others. I'm a mom to three amazing kids. I was a very young mom. And so my oldest daughter's actually just finished her first year of college. Then I have one that's in high school, and I have my baby boy who is 7. Um, they are everything to me, and that is what I spend most of my life doing, momming. When I'm not momming, I'm doing outdoorsy stuff. There's a lot of outdoorsy stuff to do here in San Diego. Yes, I'm just really excited about this session, and I look forward to hearing some of your stories as well as the other ladies. So I'll pass it to Lynn. Wonderful, wonderful introduction. Well, hi, ladies. It is also my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Elle, for inviting me. It's so nice to be here this morning and this afternoon, wherever you are. My name is London Worthy. I'm a Detroit native. However, I live in Southern California, Los Angeles. I've always wanted to live here as a little girl. I have an actor's background. I have a lot of things in my background, but what brought me to LA initially was to pursue an acting career. But then I learned very quickly that it doesn't really pay the bills. So it's more of a hobby at this time. But I decided to get into the legal field around maybe 2016, 2017. As I shared with Elle on a previous occasion, it was my mother's idea actually for me to practice law. And we never agree on anything. We never listen to our parents, right? But it was actually turned out to be a good idea. So I recently passed the California February bar. I got my results a couple weeks ago, which was very tumultuous, the whole experience, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you have been keeping up with, what happened with that experience. But nonetheless, here I stand. I still have, some loose ends to wrap up before I am sworn in and officially an attorney. But the biggest step is out of the way, and my future is looking great and bright. And again, I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Yes, I am. So, first of all, California is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, bar exam in this country. So, I'm always in amazement at folks who take that exam. I'm still on the fence. I low key think I am gonna go sit for the attorney's exam because I am not supposed to be an East Coast girl. I'm convinced. It's too cold. I don't like it here.
Oh,
I'm not supposed to be an East Coast girl. So I'm considering. I think I am gonna make the jump and at least take the attorney's exam because matter of fact, in a year or so, I'll be able to qualify for that and not be able to take the full exam. But anywho, we're gonna skip that. Tell me, okay, so you both actually touched on what made you guys become an attorney, but can we talk about your law school journeys first? So, how did you guys prepare for even going to law school? So, like, how many times did you take the LSAT? I only took it once and cried for about a week after I got my results. But I also knew I was never taking it again. I should have in hindsight, but I knew I was not gonna take it again, so I just shot my shot. But, like, what was that process like for you guys?
Okay, so I'll take the lead. For me, again, this wasn't my idea, it was my mother's idea. And so I told her if I went on Google and I looked up an LSAT question and I got it right without any, prior preparation, that I would go ahead and pursue this legal thing. And so I went on Google, I looked up a question and I got it right. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm signing up for the LSAT and here we go. Much to my dismay, after I took the LSAT, I didn't use a prep course or anything like that. I just used a lot of free resources. Like I went to the Los Angeles, like downtown public library, stacked up to this high, books leaving out of there. And I'm like, I'm gonna do this on my own, being 9 years removed from undergrad. And much to my dismay, I took the exam, and I think what they call gray day. I remember exactly where I was. I was working at AT&T and T, and I was sitting in the break room, and it was devastating. I got a 138, like 2 points or a couple points from like the lowest you could ever get. Um, and so I knew that I didn't want to retake it. I couldn't retake it. I didn't really have the time or the resources. And so I just started to try and find a school that would accept me. So um does that answer the question, or were we going into more? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that touches it. I also got a pretty low LSAT score. I got a 145, and again, was not taking no, I refused. I refused. Uh, okay, wait, we'll jump back into that. Jasmine, you tell us your LSAT pre-law school journey.
well, I have a really similar experience to the both of you, and I want to preface it with this, and I'm sure we'll go off and explore this a little bit, but just to put it out on the table, I think it's interesting that the three of us all share a common experience with both the LSAT and the bar exam. So we can talk about that. But yes, again, similar experience. I will say I was really young when I sat for the LSAT the first time. I think I was 22. I was 22 and I had two small, my two daughters were small at that time. I think the oldest was maybe 4 and I had just had the other one. I don't even think the other one was 1 yet. And so that being said, I don't really know if I had, well, I felt like I had adequately prepared. But again, I scored very low. To be honest with you all, I don't even remember. I just remember I scored in the 130s and it was closer to the 140 end, so high 130s. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I prepared for this, I studied for this, or so I thought, right? And I was just this 22-year-old trying to navigate law school admissions with no real guidance and no real mentor to say, this is the process, this is how you should prepare. I actually took it again. And I said, you know what? If it's meant for me to be whatever this score is, I'll get into where I need to get into. So I had a friend who actually had just graduated from Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge. And she told me about it. And she was like, I know that you don't know anything about Baton Rouge or you don't have any interest in going to school there, but she was just like, I don't know. I just put it on my heart for, to let you know that I think it would be a great program for you. So I took it again. I scored in the 140s, which was it's still not great, right? And I said somebody is going to accept me with this LSAT score. And as it turned out, I went like I think I met the minimum or right over what the minimum LSAT score for Southern was, and that was how my experience went. But yeah, very same thing, same process.
And London, I know you mentioned that you applied, well, when you and I were talking, but you applied to a very small amount of schools. Jasmine, I can't remember how many schools you mentioned that you applied to, but when I got my terrible score, I widened the net and I said, you know what? I am just gonna shoot my shot at had a lot of fee waivers. Want to preface this with that. So I applied to like 18, 19 schools. But again, lots and lots of fee waivers. So all of that was not coming out of my pocket. And I got accepted to a little over half of those schools and then waitlisted at a few of those. But ultimately I went to the school who offered me the biggest scholarship. Happy I did. And I started school in the Midwest and then came back home to cold New York. So I know you went to Baton Rouge to SULC. You went to Cooley, London, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So, law school. How did your schools, or rather, did your schools prepare you for the bar exam, like as a whole? So, for me, the school I graduated with my JD from New York Law School, what they did was they built into our 3L year curriculum an intro to MBE and intro to MEE like course. So we had absolutely no choice. We had to take those classes. It was what it was. And that was kind of like my first real exposure to like what I would kind of sort of be looking forward to for the bar exam. So did your schools do anything like that?
We actually did not have that experience. So, interestingly enough, SULC, if, and I know people hear about it because this is like the story that's told, I think, in most law schools. Louisiana jurisdiction is so different. And so, I am happy to know that now SULC has started to shift their focus or help their students shift their focus according to which bar exam they're going to prepare for. But when I was there, it was Louisiana bar exam. That was the goal. That is what they were driving. And there were no prep courses. I'm really excited to know that, though, that SULC has made significant strides in helping students sort of carve out a pathway forward in the bar exam, because you think you start 1L year and you're like, oh, I have so much time to think about the bar exam. You really don't. You really don't. It comes so quick.
Yeah, well, for me, at Cooley, I mean, Cooley at the time didn't have really the best reputation, but I found out that they did have bar prep courses that you would take your last year, your 3L year. I went to Cooley campus in Tampa, Florida, even though they're based in Michigan. Most of their campuses are in Michigan, where I'm from. But I didn't want to go back to the cold either. So but yeah, so they had the courses, I think it was called Intro to MBE or Intro to Bar Skills or something like that. I can't remember what it was called per se, but they had one gear just for like the general or maybe UBE, I guess, bar exam, and then once for Florida specific. I ended up taking Florida specific because I did not know about the general one, like the UBE one, until I had already enrolled and was a couple weeks into the course. But I mean, it was a asynchronous course, so I mean, we didn't go to class every day. It was just like busy work, in my opinion. So, I mean, I don't really think it prepared. I mean, they made an effort, but I don't think they really prepared us at that time. But I think they have more resources now for the students that are there now, which is great.
Honestly, same. So, like, while it was great that they did weave these into our last year curriculum, for me personally, how they were taught were just two different learning systems and prep. course base that didn't work for me, which is what we're going to dive into next. But so in New York, a big bar prep company is Peeper. And the mnemonics confused the hell out of me and annoyed me. And they're back then, let me rephrase that. Back then, their prep style, their teaching style was very mnemonic heavy. And that just didn't work for me because I'm just seeing a whole bunch of different acronyms and a whole bunch of different random phrases that are not clicking. So in that sense, it was a lot of overload for me. And then the Intro to MEE course was taught by this amazing professor. He's still a professor at MYLS now. Love him to death. But again, the overall structure of that course and like the materials that we use, if I'm not mistaken, we use like Kaplan materials, either Kaplan or Barbary materials. Neither neither of which were conducive to my kind of learning style. I probably would have done a little better in a more asynchronous environment as opposed to a big old class where everybody's got opinions, everybody's got questions, and yeah, we're gonna dive into that. But okay, so boom, you guys, we all go to law school, we graduate, start prepping for the bar. Who did you guys choose, or rather, did you choose like one of the big name bar prep companies? So I originally signed up for Barbary and took Barbary because I was told that's the cat's pajamas. It's the best thing since sliced bread, and you need to have the best. And if you want to have the best, then you need to go to Barbary. And even though I kind of had a glimpse into how Barbary's, prep system would work, and I kind of figured it may not be the best fit for me personally. I wanted to have the best, and the best big ticket company was Barbary, so I signed up for Barbary. So let's start there. Which prep company did you guys go for first?
Yes,
I,
I went for
oh no, go ahead, London.
I'm sorry. No, yeah, I went for Barbary because again, it was pushed very heavily during law school, and it had the most discounts. Barbary was what I chose.
I actually did Kaplan um, instead of Barbary. And I think the reason why I did Kaplan was because Barbary seemed to be, or the Barbary table in our school seemed to be very Louisiana bar exam specific. And I know that a lot of people who were not going to sit for the bar exam, they were like, Kaplan is a little bit more of, um, it'll bridge the gap between everything that you've learned and then of course having to study other law that you didn't learn in law school because everything was so Louisiana focused. um so yeah, I chose Kaplan, and I got a decent discount, but they were still really expensive.
Ooh, okay, to circle back. So I started law school in a state that wasn't a UBE jurisdiction, and you guys both attended and graduated from schools that weren't in UBE jurisdictions. So do you think that that added a layer of difficulty to your bar prep experience overall, but specifically for the first time? Because like, when did you guys decide to take a UBE exam? And, how was what was that thought process like?
Um, so Louisiana is not a UBE jurisdiction. Louisiana is like California. They write their own exams. And they're actually even more different than California because they don't utilize the MBE at all. So they write their own multiple choice questions. And at that time, when I was starting law school, they had just started introducing a multiple choice question section on their exam. So up until I started law school in 2012, I think they debuted it 2012 or 2013. Prior to that, the Louisiana bar exam was completely written. There were no true or false. There were no multiple choice. Everything was written. Every section, every code, the entire exam was a written exam. And so, with that being said, my experience with the UBE didn't come until later when I had a hard time passing the California bar exam. So I never sat for a UBE right out of law school. Instead, I did the California bar, wasn't having success there, and it was like, okay, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so that's what prompted the transition to UBE.
For me, California is the only bar that I ever sat for, and that was the only bar I intended to sit for. When I applied to law school, I was living in Los Angeles, and if I could have, I would have. If there was a school that would have took me, I would have stayed in Los Angeles. But now I know that it was, divine intervention because I went to law school in 2019. And that was right before COVID, and so Florida was wide open during COVID. I know California was pretty much on lockdown, so it kind of was a blessing for me. But the California was the only one I sat for. They tried to get me to do Florida because I was in a Florida school and they were trying to convince me and things like that. But they had their own multiple choice as well in Florida, and some other different things that, I wasn't really in tune with, I guess, so to speak. But going into bar prep, I knew that I was going to have some California things that I needed to basically learn on my own and teach myself. Which, in my opinion, it wasn't so bad with Barbary and the tools that I utilized. So
I found it a little bit difficult because again, a good chunk of the bar exam, especially the UBE, is are the courses that we take during our first year. And having started in a non-UBE jurisdiction, having to switch off like that, Illinois specific, of course, they've converted to a UBE jurisdiction now, but having to kind of like switch off those state specific distinctions for those doctrinal courses was a little difficult for me. So that interesting to hear. Okay. So boom, we all did Barbary Kaplan. What what was your study process like for the very first time that you sat for the bar? So did you follow the Barbary and or Kaplan course to the T? Were you miserable sitting in front of your computer for 12, 13, 14 hours not eating like I was? Like what was that like for y'all?
for me, I was living in Los Angeles. I had been able to do my last semester fully remote. So I had moved back to LA my last semester. And then after I graduated, I started studying for the bar and I was working two jobs, a night job and a day job, which was a huge mistake. But I was following Barbary. They told me if you complete 80 something percent of it, you should pass. And so that was my goal. So I was just going through the motions, to be quite honest. I think I had access to Adaptive Bar, but I didn't really use it. I was trying to do a little bit of like the climb method at that time, but I wasn't fully doing it. And just, cherry picking resources that I had got from other people who have taken it. And I had this big Dropbox file, and I'm like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Like outlines and just, it was just stuff everywhere. And so I was just praying and hoping for the best, really.
I'm with you, London. Bar prep was extremely difficult for me in particular because I'm like you, Elle. I couldn't do that one size fits all approach. So I'll just say I tried Kaplan, I tried Barbary, I tried Themis. I wasn't successful until I stopped using those courses and I took sort of the what works for me. So what I did was I recalled sections of those periods of bar prep and I'm like, this works for me. Okay, then I did it with a different company. Okay, now this works for me. And so those tactics and those strategies that I found worked for me during those trial and error periods using those larger companies, I took those things and then that's what made me successful on the UBE. And then instead of shortchanging myself when I got ready to do the California bar again, I was also successful again because I took that same approach and I didn't lack. Like I prepared just like I did when I did the UBE. So I'm like, this worked. I'm going to do this exactly again. And that regime, that plan of attack, that's what got me there. So I will definitely say that nothing that the commercial bar prep courses offered worked for me. I was completely overwhelmed. I was counterproductive, and I didn't find myself really excited about bar prep until I did it my way.
Excited is a strong word.
You know, you got to tell yourself sometimes when you sit in that library between 9 and 5, like, this is an opportunity. I get to do this. What an honor that I get to sit for this. Because how many women in our position coming from where we come from would have ever dreamt like what we're literally doing something or have done something, have accomplished this great, this great feat that only people have dreamt about. And so that was a part of my mindset, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't excited every day, but some days, I had to. It was exciting. It was affirming because I was making progress, and so it was like rewarding intrinsically. So it was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. So it was motivating.
I like that. I like that attitude. I was able to adopt a little bit of it at some point, but yeah, no, exciting it was. Yeah, that was not the word. That was a trauma-filled time. As well, the first time was the most traumatic freaking prep experience ever. So okay, we go for our big ticket bar prep courses. We the however many weeks, 10, 8, 10 weeks or whatever we're studying, we walk into the bar exam. You get the results a few months later, and what was that experience like for you guys?
For me, the first time when I got my results, it was very I don't know the word I'm looking for. I don't very anticlimactic. Um and I think maybe the waiting game, I took it in July of 22 for the first time, and waiting from July to November is just it really plays mind games with you. Like one day you think you passed, the next day you think you did. Day you're having a good dream, like I passed. Next thing you're having a nightmare, and it's just it takes a toll on your mental health. But when I did get the results, and I got the results the first time that I did not pass, I was absolutely devastated. Um, but then I got, my results, and they show you, what your score was, and I realized I wasn't really that far off. I just needed to fine tune some things, and that kind of gave me hope, but it was still just very daunting for me. Knowing that I had to basically start over and start from scratch, and not really knowing outside of, the results that they gave me, which way to go. Should I go left? Should I go right? Should I go down? Should I go up? Should I go back? What is going to make me get over this hill? And so just not knowing and trying to figure that out was very scary for me. So
It's interesting because of the school that I went to, and well, I wouldn't say because of the school that I went to, but um, the pass rates during the time that I came in to SULC, they were particularly low, especially if you were taking the bar exam outside of Louisiana. And so there was almost this unwritten, not vibe, but there was like this unwritten, um, I don't even want to call it unwritten. I don't even know how to say it, but there was just like this vibe that sort of plagued students that it is expected for you to fail the first time. And so and I had seen people that had came out of SULC that were taking the Louisiana bar 5, 6 times. I had someone who I knew that graduated in 2012 when I was a 1L. And then he didn't pass until after, like, well after I had graduated. Like, I had graduated a few years. I think it was like 8 or 9 years that he had been out of school before he finally passed. So anyway, there was this culture, and it was, I don't know. I don't know if it's the same, but I know when I was there, not we all, but I think a lot of us had this, we were fearful. And it was just like, okay, I'm probably not going to pass this thing. And at least for me, that's sort of what I had in my head, sort of that doubt, not confident. And so when I didn't pass, I had this, and it may have been just my mindset too, going through life in general and having to overcome a lot of disappointment. And you never want to get your hopes up too much. So I know when I failed, for me, I was like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. And it was like this self-sabotaging mindset that I had to work really, really hard to get myself out of, because it almost, by me failing, it almost affirmed that negative mindset that maybe I didn't always acknowledge, but it was there, right in the back of my head. And I would say, like, oh, I knew I was going to happen. Why would I pass? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, or, I'm just in the great beyond trying to figure this out on my own. Like, it wasn't a shock. And so that was a negative mindset that I had to work really hard to overcome. And I think, to shorten this, I think that was a major part in why it did take me so long to finally pass.
I too can agree with that. Well, the first time I got the results and I realized I failed, it was a mixture because walking into the exam, I knew I was not ready and I knew I should not have been taking that exam, but I don't believe in wasting money and I knew that I could not get my money back. So I just said, you know what? I mean, if you fail, you fail. The money is gone anyway, and it ain't like I could get it back. It's not like I could get those however many weeks I had already put into studying back. So I went into it in hindsight already kind of knowing like I should not be taking this test. I'm not ready. This is not going to be it. So while I kind of had that, I was kind of sort of preparing and trying not to get my hopes up. In the On the other hand, I was still very devastated because it's just like, well, damn, I did try. I did try, and I was kind of sort of hoping that this would have been enough or like this would have been the time, but darn. So I second that. It was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of. I was just like, you know what? Maybe this just means that you're not supposed to be a lawyer. You're not supposed to be an attorney. Hello, you went into this exam and look what happened. Now you got the results. So this is showing you maybe this is not your wheelhouse. So what exactly did you guys do to like anything specific that you guys did between like, okay, you got the results and you're like, all right, I'm gonna take this next administration, or did you take an administration off? I jumped right back into it and scored much better than the first time, but even then, that like how did you get that first failure out of your head? Or how did you push it to the side? Or were you able to push it to the side at all at that point? And how many, let's rewind. How many times did you guys take any exam before you got a passing UBE score, or before you passed for California?
Well, for me, I passed on my fifth attempt with California. I never thought I would be that girl. Um, I graduated undergrad from the Johns Hopkins University, so I had a lot of pride and ego to set aside. And it was a very, very humbling experience for me, the whole process from the beginning to the end. But as far as the first um, time getting my results back and not passing, I really didn't have a choice. I had to put it behind me. I had to move and push forward because I had no other options. Um, and so, I mean, I have family support, I have friends, but nobody really knows what you're going through except for the other people that's going through it. And I think I kind of relied on some of my peers to help me get through it because some of them were in the same type of boat. So they kind of helped me put it to the side and stuff like that. But it was difficult. It was very difficult to do, but I knew that um, I've gotten this far, and so I just it just wasn't an option for me to quit. So,
Um, I don't think I ever got over the trauma and disappointment of failing the California bar. So I took the California bar 4 times. So, like you, London, I was successful on my fifth attempt. So what I did was I sat for the California bar 4 times, and I said, you know what? Maybe I'm just not meant to be in California. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go. I love Texas. So during COVID, I split a lot of my time between here, California, and Texas in the Dallas area. I love Texas. I was like, this is a great place to raise my kids. This is where I want to be. And I just was so gung ho about Texas, right? So at that time, Texas had transitioned to the UBE. So I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I said, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to take the exam in Texas. And it wasn't until I got a passing score for the UBE there. And let me say this, I never got a passing score in Texas. I scored high enough to practice in DC, New York, Illinois, and a few other places. Well, it wasn't a few, it was a good amount. It's probably about 12 or 13 jurisdictions that I scored high enough to. So I took that as a sign. I said, okay, God, if I get a 270, I know you want me to be in Texas. If I don't get a 270, I know that you want me to, I'll get more guidance later, right? And so when I got the score, I said, we're waving into DC. And that's exactly what we did. We waved into DC, and then it turned out to be great because I ended up working for a firm there and getting experience. And so it worked out. But the passing the UBE or getting sworn into the DC bar and being able to practice, that's what ignited my fire to go back to California. And I was like, I'm coming for everything now because now I got this little juice. And I'm like, I'm an attorney now. So I didn't sit for the attorney's exam. I wasn't licensed long enough to do that, but I did have to sit for the bar again. But I'm telling you, that confidence that I got from the UBE, I was like, when I went into bar prep for California, when I went and sat for the bar in California, I just knew it. I said, we did it. And it was sometimes you just need that win. You just need that win. You just need that little reminder. And I prayed for that. I said, God, I just need you to show me something that reminds me that this drain that you put in here since I was like itty bitty running around outside with no shoes on. I just need to see a sign, like something. Affirm this and let me know that these dreams that you put in here, they're not for nothing. Like they're not void. They will become manifest one day. And that is exactly what happened. The UBE catapulted me into a whole nother life. I'm living a whole nother life that 2 years ago, I was praying to, mind blown. So sometimes we just need that thing to catapult us into the next space. And the UBE did that for me. So I took the UBE, I took it 4 times. So I was successful on my fourth attempt. And then California, I was successful on my fifth attempt.
I'm a little ass backwards in that sense. So, okay, let me see. I graduated 2017. Okay, so I did not get a passing UBE score until my third attempt but I still took the bar exam, the UBE. I took it another 2 times after getting that initial passing score. Almost let that score expire because in my head, and now I wish I could go back and save myself the stress, the depression, the discouragement, all of it, because and I owe a lot of this. I will always give her her flowers. I owe a lot of like this kind of mindset shift to a friend of mine named Caroline. She's a professor now, but she had gotten into bar prep coaching or whatever. And like I said, I got a passing UBE score in 2019, and on the February 2019 bar exam. I Matter of fact, holy crap, I took it 3 more times after that. What the Alright, anyways, I wish I had that money right now. I wish I had that time back. But either way, so I get the score and I'm like, "Okay, well, cool. I can practice somewhere," but in my head, I still failed because I did not pass for New York. So, again, in my head, it's just like, "Well, you're still a failure." So, I don't care where you can practice. If you can't practice where you want to practice, it's not a win. And I I try to tell all of my mentees, I tell all types of unsolicited, give un type of unsolicited advice to everybody. If you can practice somewhere, go ahead, get the Esquire and move on from there. And again, I give so much credit to my friend Caroline because this is in 2021 now, and I'm getting ready to take it for the final time. And at this point, I'm going into, all right, your good score is about to expire. And I scored lower one time, and then I scored maybe one more point higher than that passing score. So I'm just like, well, damn, I'm still missing the mark for New York. I'm gonna take it one more time. And she's just like, well, not that I'm gonna discourage you from taking it, but like, why are you taking it when you can practice? I never ever intended to practice in any area other than IP after 1L year. I knew that's the arena that I wanted to be in. IP is federal. You don't have to be barred in any specific jurisdiction to be an IP attorney. But although I knew that, I'm like, again, I still failed. And she's just like, "Well, did you fail? So think about it like this." So, being an attorney is like an exclusive club, right? And you're still standing outside of the club, not because you can't get in, but because you can't sit in the section that you want to sit in. Does that make sense? And I'm just like, I mean, when you phrase it that way, it doesn't. I didn't like what she said at the time, but it resonated with me. So once I got that, we're sorry to inform you that you did not achieve a passing score on the New York State bar exam. I said, you know what? Fuck y'all. I can still get in this club because there's, again, as you said, Jasmine, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I can get into the club. I just can't sit in this section right this second. But I can get in and I can sit down somewhere. So why not sit down somewhere and channel that energy into something I'd be if I had taken that initial UBE score and just waved into one of the jurisdictions I was eligible to wave into. As of this year, I'd be able to wave into New York via reciprocity. So I held myself back with that mindset. And so I really admired that you were, Jasmine, that you were able to kind of take that and see it as a win. Like I still won somewhere. It may not be right here where I envisioned, but it's still a win. And I kind of want everyone, especially those who are sitting for a UBE jurisdiction, if you've got at least a 260, you can sit somewhere. You can figure something else out. You can pivot. And if you must take insert whatever state's bar exam again because it means that much to you as it meant to me, then go for it. But go for it go for it with the mindset of it's you didn't fail and you can still get in the club. So don't sit outside, don't hate from outside the club when you can get in. So thanks, Caroline. I wanted to weave into how did you guys kind of how did you guys kind of pivot from like using the just straight up Barbary, Kaplan, whatever? What else did you guys weave into your studies that made a difference the other times around, and then on the times that you guys passed? So for me, two game changers were Smart Bar Prep. They have these rule sheets. They break down like the frequency of which it's tested on each exam, and they give you like a high, medium, and low ranking system. So that was kind of how I was able to shift my focus. Like, okay, well, it, don't nobody understand the rule against perpetuities. If they test it, they test it. It is what it is. But maybe I should know about joint tenancy because that's something that's pretty frequently tested. So that was very helpful. Of course, Adaptabar was pretty helpful. Quimby was a game changer. But JD Advising, they have these one sheets that are also very similar to the Smart Bar Prep outlines, and those breakdowns were more helpful for me. So, what did you guys use any of those like supplemental materials? Critical Pass was not that good of an addition for me, but I'm also just not a flashcards type of person. And I was able to kind of like weave in the Critical Pass flashcards mostly to make myself feel less bad about not studying. So if I'm like watching my insert ratchet TV show during the commercials or whatever, I would like flip through the flashcards and like quiz myself in that way. So what all did you guys weave in?
Well, for me, and just going back to the whole Barbary piece of it all, Barbary was never really the issue. It wasn't the problem. I was the problem. I was the issue. And when I say that, I mean, we all use the same resources, whether it be a Barbary, whether it be Adaptabar, whether it be Critical Pass, JD Advising, the list goes on and on. It's all the same material for the most part, right? It's how you use the material and how you put it in rotation, so to speak, that makes the difference, in my opinion. Um, just to answer your question, I used Barbie the first time around. I did use the Adaptabar the first 4 times. I used Ada Rufo's rule book. I think it was the 2021 version, which I highly recommend. I ended up, I dabbled with the flashcards, but it was too much on one card. I like to make my own. Um, what else? So my mentor gave me a big Dropbox full of stuff that she had used because she'd taken it 6 times, California. And so she signed me into that, and that had John Grossman videos, which were very helpful. Also, she had a lot of essays from baressays.com. So I didn't have to sign up for that. I had most of that stuff already. Um, in addition to like a couple of performance tests as well in there. So it was just a smorgasbord, I guess you could say, of stuff in there. But it was how I used the material my 5th time that kind of made the difference for me. The 5th time I only used Barbary for the most part, and I did the Jessica Klein method, which I highly recommend that book as well. I did not use Adaptabar when I passed. I used only the multiple choice questions in Barbary, and I just kept doing them over and over and over again. Because in the past, I thought, well, I've only done this amount of questions, fresh questions, new questions. I need more material, but there was nothing out there. Every time I get a new piece of material or new questions, it's like, I've seen this before. I've done this before. I did this question before. And then it started to click to me. It's like, oh, but you keep getting it wrong though. You keep getting that one wrong. So you got to keep doing the ones that you get wrong over again. And it took a while for me for that to click. And then Jessica Klein kind of helped me with the essay portion of it because it was more of like an issue spotting thing for me. It's like I knew the law. It's just it was hard for me to see the issues and know that the issues that they're testing me on are clustered together. And if you're gonna see this issue, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see this one, that one, and the third. And so you might as well just throw it on the page, whether you see it or not, because you know it's there somewhere. So yeah, again, it's not really about the materials you use. They all give you the same thing. It's how you use them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, London, I definitely will second that. I think you get to a point where it's you passing is really contingent on how you use the materials. And for me, how I use the materials had to be focused on, like London said, what I'm getting wrong, what my weak areas are, what areas did I not learn in law school. I taught myself real property. And if we're being honest, I taught myself contracts too, because in Louisiana, they did not teach you the UCC. So all I knew was restatement contracts. So I had to learn, I had to teach myself the UCC and real property and other areas that I never learned, going to school in a Louisiana jurisdiction. So I really had to use the materials in a way that continued to strengthen my strong areas and really developed and made me competent in those areas to write a passing essay in California, to write a passing essay for the UBE. And so again, the way that I used the materials was it was very active studying, lots of practice questions. I was writing essays every day. I don't give a damn if I didn't know that essay. I was going to make up a rule. I was going to write some solid ass analysis, and I was going to do it in the time frame that I'm allowed to do it. And so execute using the materials in a way that one focuses on your weak areas, continue to strengthen your already strong areas, right? And by doing that active studying approach, I don't think I ever learned a method. I just knew that I learned from writing essays and grading my own essays. And I knew that from doing MBEs. Now I didn't do no 2000 MBEs like London, same thing. I used what I had to really focus on those weak areas. And again, I liked Adaptive Bar, so I used Adaptive Bar. Adaptive Bar now has these crazy text features that are like, they show you where you're weak at. They show you how often a topic is tested. They show you how many times you missed a question. They have these really great explanations. It's a lot of material, but if you really spend the time and sit with the material and go through it, even if you feel like it's a lot, that's what helped me. Adaptive Bar was great. So Critical Pass, I'm going to throw my opinion out on Critical Pass. When I first ordered Critical Pass, because I ordered the box of cards, I ordered those when I was knee deep in taking the UBE those few times. And the first time I was like, I seen them cards. I said, I'm not studying these goddamn cards. It's way too much information. And then I took the UBE again. I'm not using these goddamn cards. It's too much information. So by the third and fourth time, I started seeing what these cards talking about. And I used those cards. And I promise you that time was not for naught because I scored almost upwards of 150 on the MBE using those Critical Pass cards and Adaptive Bar exclusively. And I just did about 1,200 questions, 1,300 questions, and well, maybe about 1,500 because I did the like the 200 question set. That was a practice exam. But again, I just focused on what my weak areas were. If I got it wrong, I wrote it down. If I got it wrong, I did the question again. So repetition and really driving that material that did not stick. For California, It is like, I think baressays.com, where they have a bunch of past exams. I just went on the California Bar website and I downloaded every essay for every subject. And I wrote almost every essay. And if I didn't write it, I outlined it. And if I didn't outline it, I read it and I gave myself a certain amount of time and I was marking up the page. Active review, active studying. Put your hands on a piece of paper, write it down, chop it up, dissect it, however it works best for you. So, yes, the takeaway has to be, I agree with you, London, really using the material in a way that is beneficial for you and where you are in your knowledge and what more you need to soak up. I'm sorry, that was long.
No, that was actually very good because I agree with the both of you. One thing that I did that made a really big difference was I started, I guess, for lack of a better phrase at this moment, taking inventory of, okay, well, these are the questions that I did. These are the topics, subtopics, blah, 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 blah. And I started writing down why I got something wrong or why I got something right. It's important to pay attention to the things that you get right as well as you pay attention to the things that you get wrong because you can learn from both. But a game changer for me was, why did you get this wrong? And if you can understand why you got it wrong. So, okay, let's say it's a, I don't know, let's say it's a negligence question. Why'd you get that wrong? Do you just not understand what negligence is? Or did you not understand the call of the question? Did you read too fast and skip over something? Like, understanding what it is that you got wrong and why you got it wrong, or why you got it right. Because, when in doubt, pick C, that's a thing. Sometimes we guess and we get lucky, but that doesn't mean that you know the material. That just means you had a good question that time. That means you had some luck. It's not about luck. You got to figure out and really understand the basics. And that's a game changer. No matter where you sit for the exam, no matter how many times you sit for it, do you understand? Like, do you genuinely understand what it is that you're doing, what it is that they're asking? So, yes, using the material in a way that actually reinforced what I knew and helped me to understand what I didn't know, what I was able to build that muscle. So I'm glad you both spoke on that. Um, okay, so you guys, I'm assuming, did not use the whole 12, 13, 14 hour schedule, going forward. How did you treat it like a job when you were retaking? Like, so did you only study well, London, you had two jobs. Jasmine, you had babies. W Okay, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think you put more quality time into your studies going forward, or or did you focus on the amount of time that you were studying?
So for me, the first time I took it, as I mentioned before, I was working two jobs. At one point when I was taking, I think maybe my third or fourth time, I was working three jobs. So it's hard out here, everybody knows. And my score got lower and lower each time. And so I kept saying, if I could just work one job, please, God, just give me just one job where I can pay my bills. And I know I can pass that time. I know I can. And he gave that to me. He's like, okay, here go one job, 40 hours a week. Let's see what you do. Still failed it. I said, okay, well, God, just make it so I ain't gotta work. I ain't gotta do nothing because I really need to pass the exam. He said, okay, I'm gonna lay you off from this job. I said, wait, that's not what I wanted.
Okay, that's
I
not what
got
I
laid.
meant. I meant I wanted to check.
I got laid off from my job. It was contingent upon me passing the bar exam. I did not pass. They let me go 2 months ahead of time. So I was really like, really, this is what we doing now? Uh, So I moved to Texas last year with my mom. She was moved to Texas herself, and I said I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna humble myself. I'm gonna leave LA, leave everything behind. I can stay here and thug it out, but I'm gonna just study full time, Monday through Friday. Take the weekends off for 7 months. 7 months from July to February. Um, so I treated it like a job. I didn't do the normal 2 or 3 months that everybody does, or like I used to do before. Because at one point I was trying to get accommodations. I'm like, if I could just get extra time on the test, I know I can really pass it. And that, but I just needed time for me to really relax, not have any other responsibilities because any type of distraction, any type of outside, entities or forces coming in, it really removes me from that study mindset, the academic mindset, right? And so it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. I got laid off from that job. I studied for 7 months, Monday through Friday, and I had a blast with it. I had a blast because it was like no pressure. You know what I'm saying? No pressure, like, oh, the weeks is counting down. I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. It was just, I don't know. It was like a love making session with the bar. That makes sense for 7 months. It's like making a baby. You have a baby for what, 9 months? I don't have children, but I'm trying to, give some type of analogy here. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I did differently this time. And I realized that it was never the sources, it was me. I had to cut out all the outside noise. And yes, it was I didn't have the luxury of being able to do so, right? And this is a gatekeeping type of exam where, a lot of the upper echelon and a lot of those people they keep it at a certain point where people who look like me have a more difficult time getting in, but that's a whole different conversation. But God made it so where, okay, this is what you really want, then you're going to have to give up and sacrifice living a certain type of way to get there. So if staying down to come up was a person, that was me last year in 2024. So that's what I'll say.
Definitely London. I was in the same boat, I think, last year. Um, it was something that, so I'll briefly touch on my experience with the UBE. My experience with the UBE, I was working full time for a public agency here in California. Um, and it was difficult to navigate, but I had some time off, and my kids go to year-round school where we live. So they're out in June and they're back in July. And so and actually this was it for both the UBE and for California. But I will preface it with this. I've had it like that before where I got my kids got to go somewhere for the summer. I've had it before where, God, if you just send this money my way, I'm a pass, and I don't pass. I've had it before where I've had someone pay for a bar exam for me and I didn't pass. Multiple times. I've had multiple family members step in and pitch in, and different attorneys I had worked with that were like, we came together and here's your bar money, here's your moral character application. I had it like that before. The problem wasn't that, the problem was me. And so and I'm a believer. I'm 100% believer. I know we've talked about God here, and I'm gonna just be unequivocal about it. I'm a believer, and I know that my journey has been ordained. Every step, every mishap, even when I've made decisions that didn't work for me, I know that God turned it out for my good, turned it around for my good. And I'll just say that God was waiting for me to get to a place where I was equipped enough for him to pour out everything that he wanted to pour out. I wasn't the capacity that I held in those times that I wasn't passing. I didn't have the capacity to hold what he wanted to pour out on me, right? And so that was me. I wasn't ready yet. So yeah, God would keep sending the stuff my way. And like London, I wasn't ready. So I didn't pass. But this time around, for the UBE, my kids got to go away for the summer. I took some time off, like complete time off, and I studied. I studied from about 10 to about 6. And at night, I watched my TV shows. I ate my food. So the UBE was 2022 for me. So again, my kids were gone. I ate good every night. I didn't have to cook big meals. My house was clean. I didn't have to clean up after nobody. I had to dip. I just studied. I went to the gym in the morning. I would take my phone and leave it in my car during the day. Take my phone and leave it in the car. And I was studying. I did home study that time. And I would just sit here at my little island in my kitchen or wherever, at my desk, wherever, and I would study 10 to 5, 10 to 6. And at night, I lived my life because it was the summertime. So at night, I was outside. So that was great because, I was studying. I did it. All right, cool. It was a great summer. California, same thing. But this time, I still had a few hearings and stuff that I did throughout the time that I was studying. But again, I wasn't working as much. I may have done some, drafted a few pleadings, had to make a few appearances or whatever. But I didn't have any trials. They were all just, status conferences or whatever. Very light work. I didn't take on anything that I didn't want to take on. And I got up every day. At the time that I took the California bar, my partner worked at because I went and studied at a library that was at a local college. So I would go to the school to study, and every morning he would text me, "Hope you're up and ready for the day. Hope you got this, this, and this." I would get there, and because he worked on campus, he would come in and check in on me in the library periodically because he knew my study schedule. So he would come in. I'm just making sure you're doing good. Sometimes he walked in, y'all, and I was a crying ass mess. But having that one person, having my family to take my kids for the summer. So again, I could just study, get up in the morning. I'd be there from 9 to 5. And then having someone not to distract you, but just to come in and make sure you're on task and that you're motivated and keep you focused on the things that you were doing. That really was a game changer because I didn't feel so alone. Like I felt alone, obviously, because, people don't know the process unless they know the process, unless they've been through the process. Nobody knows how it feels to be that and how to go through that. So definitely, again, like you, London, I didn't work. I wasn't making as much money. I wasn't making no money, honey. But you know what? It was all right because I got the time that I needed. I got the peace that I needed. And then when we would finish studying, that person would get off work and we go hiking. We go work out. We literally watched the entire series of Empire. I had never watched all of Empire. We sat and watched all of Empire like during my bar studies last summer. Like it was just making sure that you dedicate that time and you protect that time. Whatever that time is, if that's what you got, active studying, pouring into that time. And then don't be afraid to live your life on the other side of that. Close the book. Close the book. Go eat a steak. Go ahead and go to Steak 48 on a Thursday night just because. Like, go down to STK for happy hour. If you know that you genuinely, and that was the motivation for me. I was excited to go work out after studying. I was excited to go on a hike after studying. It was the summertime. Like, everybody wants to be outside on the summertime. I want to go to the rooftop when I'm done studying. I want to go grab me some, some truffle fries, some wings, a margarita. I want to enjoy my life. And that piece of studying, that component was integral because it keeps your morale up. It keeps your spirits up. So if I could say anything, the time that you get, yeah, you're going to have to sacrifice to protect that time. But like London said, if staying down to come up was a person, I wasn't making nearly as much money as I was years before. And I was like, God, I can't even get my nails done routinely, like my pedicure. I'm like my pedicure. You have to stay down to come up. And then the time that you do get, you have to protect it and you have to just give it your all. when you're in there, whatever it is, 9 to 5, 10 to 6. If you're a person that can only do 11 to 4, it's doable, but you just have to protect the time.
That's a word. It wasn't until it wasn't until I literally stopped sitting for however many hours and kind of punishing myself in many ways, like, oh, you don't get to go outside. Hell, you don't get to eat. And you certainly don't. Well, I don't eat beef, but you certainly don't get to go to nobody's steakhouse because you failed. You are on timeout. It wasn't until I kind of got out of that and actually lived a little bit that I started to see any kind of progress. And as a matter of fact, when I got that passing UBE score, I had just started my LLM program, and like that was even like having that and working around the schedule of doing that was very helpful. But I weaved in time to live, to actually live. And yeah, I think that helps to take down some of that mental toll of, "Oh my god, I failed." It's just like, "Okay, well, are we gonna keep crying about this? Are you gonna punish yourself forever? Or are you going to figure out how, again, to turn this loss into a lesson?" It doesn't have to be this evil, mean, scary monster. You're not on punishment. You do not have to torture yourself. And I really want people to understand that you can still live life, and you absolutely should live life. You don't the test does not have to ruin your life. It doesn't have to run all of your time. You can be a person and not a robot stuck to your chair starving and tortured. You don't have to be like that. But I like how you both mentioned like taking that step back and actually like protecting your time. Boundaries is something I struggled with and still struggle with. And the fact that I love that you had a partner who was so supportive and would be like, "Hey, so I know you're studying, but just checking in, and then cool, you done studying? Let's have some fun now." That's a supportive partner or a supportive just a supportive tribe is an underrated blessing. It's not it's difficult, and I think again I want to just bring it back to why we're even having this conversation. It's a gatekeepy profession. The exam is very gatekeepy, and like also there's not a lot of support when you are retaking. And it is this like it's this embarrassment, this stigma, and so people aren't talking about it. So I had no idea that there were so many people who also did not pass and whatever took I had no idea. I thought I was just in a boat by myself crying all day. Like, I thought I was in a little failure club by myself, and it's just like no, we're out here, we exist, and here is how we overcame. And look at us all on the other side. So again, we got to start talking about it. Let's just have the freaking conversation, y'all. Talk about it. There is a tribe for you. You just have to find it and get rid of anybody who is trying to distract you. Okay? Okay, we weaved in all of the questions that folks asked into our responses, so yay for that. Okay, so what would you guys, because I know we're coming up on time, I know we ran a little behind schedule, but you know, want to be mindful of everybody's day. If you could give one or two pieces of advice to anyone who is getting ready to take the exam in a couple weeks, what would that be?
That's a very good question. I would say take it serious. It's not a big bad monster, but it is what you need to do to get to the other side. So take it very serious the first time. And when I say take it serious, I mean really sit down, have a conversation with yourself, have a conversation with your family, your friends, or whoever you need to speak with, and let them know, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. This is the time that I have for this. This is the time I have for you, or whatever else may be going on, and stick to that. And I would say, again, don't get caught up on what resources you're using. We're all using the same ones. Just make sure you utilize them in a fashion um, that is helpful towards you. Whatever study methods that you use to get you to where you are now, continue. Um, and definitely, like Jazzmyn and you guys said, don't put yourself in a torture chamber, uh, prison where you can't go out and do anything because life still goes on and mental health is important. So those would be like the three things I would say as advice.
I agree with London. Those are all very important aspects of preparing for the bar. I just, two things I wanted to add is when you're sitting with yourself and having that conversation, just really tap into your why. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you're like me and you've always wanted to be an attorney and you have little mouths to feed and you are the help? Everybody's counting on you. You know what I mean? Like, just sit with yourself and ask yourself, why am I doing this? What does this mean to me? And recognize that you've spent all this time preparing, like you went to school, like you're capable. You're just as capable as the next person walking in the exam room beside you. You're just as capable as attorneys who are already barred and practicing. If you are in this space, that means you were called to this profession and you're worthy of passing the bar exam and you're worthy of your ESQ. The question is, what does it mean to you? What is your why? And what is motivating you to get through this hell, this exam, whatever it is? So really just sit yourself and remind yourself what you're doing it for, your why, and the motivation for why you're doing it. If you are a single parent, I want to add this because I know so many people, a lot of law students are older. Law students are oftentimes, they've had other careers, they have families, and the like. They've gone through life changes and a bunch of different things. I will say that I realize that not everyone has a tribe. I'm so thankful that I have family that's not far that can take my kids for the summer so I can succeed. I would be nothing without my village and my tribe. With that being said, whatever resources you do have, because I recognize not everybody's in the same boat, whatever resources you do have, don't be prideful. If someone is offering to take your kid for ice cream and you trust that person, or someone offers to help pay for summer camp, don't be prideful. If God is sending rivers into your life to sustain you for this period where you really have to pour a lot of your energy, a lot of your time, a lot of your focus into this exam, take it. Don't be prideful and make the most of whatever resources you have. Don't feel bad about sending your kids to grandma and grandpa's house for the summer, because your kids are going to be enjoying your salary when it's deposited every other week. Your kids are going to be celebrating with you at your swearing ceremony. Your kids are going to enjoy the great organic vegetables, non-GM, whatever it is. You leveling up in life is adding to your children's life, and you're giving them a life that they honestly deserve. And so you gotta, like London said, stay down to come up. It's just for a little while. You plow through your 10 weeks, your 12 weeks, your 8 weeks, whatever you have, and whatever time you have, protect that time, make the most of it. Don't feel bad about if your kids have to go away for the summer, and don't feel bad about protecting your study time and unplugging from people and places that are going to distract you. So it's all, the takeaway I think is it's all about balance. figuring out what works for you, utilizing all of your resources in a way that will catapult you into the next season of your life, which will be successful. It'll be a successful season if you can get over the bar exam.
Yes, I want to piggyback off of that. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that because again, protect your time, protect your peace. Um, and also I want to piggyback off of the don't be prideful. So for me, I'm not someone who is I don't ask for help. I could literally be drowning and will try to figure it the heck out by myself. Even if there are even if there are or were people, places, things, resources that were available to me. I personally was too prideful to even ask for help, to even ask for support. The help that the little help that I could get, I wasn't taking full advantage of it because again, pride, ego. I'm like many black attorneys, other attorneys of color, many of us are first gen. So it's you we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and part of that is learning to step outside of yourself, learning to accept help, and learning to ask if you need help. Using you could have every single big ticket bar prep course, every supplement in the world. But sometimes it's the little things. Sometimes it's that small, oh, hey, you can stay with me for a couple months. That's not a problem. Here you go. Oh, you need help with the kids? Cool. Let me help you. Be able to accept help and recognize when you need it, and don't be afraid to ask. Closed mouths do not get fed, period. And take the ego out of it. We're all smart. Clearly, if you made it through law school, you didn't flunk out, you were able to graduate, which means that you're able to take and pass this exam. Keep that in your head instead of, oh my God, I failed. It's very easy to get hung up on the quote unquote failure. And also get creative. Maybe, maybe the place where you are just so gung ho on being and practicing, maybe that is not where you're supposed to be at this time. Be open and get creative. If you've got again at least a 260, you can practice somewhere. Figure out where you can, figure out what that jurisdiction's requirements are if you meet them, and get your license. Then when you decide, "Hey, I'm gonna go sit for this exam again," it's not that big pressure. It's not this big scary elephant that's just sitting on your shoulder waiting and killing your back. Get creative. There is, again, more than one way to skin a cat. If this is something that you want, you can be the attorney that you want to be. Figure out how. Get out of your own way. Throw the ego in the trash. It does not help you. It does not help your tribe. It doesn't help anybody else around you. And it's certainly not going to help the next generation of attorneys behind you. Allowing this exam to weigh you down when it does not have to, you're doing yourself a disservice. And you're doing the folks who are going to come behind you a disservice. You want to be able to look back, as we all are, and say, you know something, that was terrible. But look at me now. I'm on the other side. We're doing amazing. Chris Jenner voice. You're doing amazing, sweetie. This is gonna be y'all soon. Like y'all are gonna be on the other side of this too. You just have to get creative and be open and protect your peace and protect your time and take it freaking serious. Don't be miserable, but take it serious. Yeah, that's the goal. Like we just have to have the conversation. It's so easy to get bogged down by the quote unquote embarrassment, but Michelle Obama did not pass on her first try either, and look at her. So keep that in mind as well as all three of us today.
I don't think Kamala passed on her first try either.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
I love her.
Yeah, I love her too.
Like, come on, look at all of us. We could have very easily just allowed this to be our defeat, right? It's so easy to give into the defeat. It's the harder do the harder thing. The harder thing is to push past whatever loss or failure. The harder thing is to keep on going, especially when you are the first and only attorney in your family. That it's a blessing and a burden that very few other people understand. So, I'm very happy that I can help be a part of you guys' tribe. And y'all gonna be on the other side of this right along with us soon. I think we touched on everything. I don't want to keep everyone, all afternoon. But I really do appreciate you ladies for joining me and being so open and just willing to talk about and have this very hard conversation with me. I appreciate you ladies. Thank you so, so, so much.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
great
good day, ladies.
Oh,
Yes, have a good day.
bye.